So running a community, the biggest surprise there was how many things are being done that no one sees to just run a community smoothly. And then as far as running an e-commerce store, the ups and downs that so many entrepreneurs are experiencing, even after really having quite a bit of success. And people come in and they see this is a place where we can be real. Going through the whole infertility journey, it's just amazing how you can just feel so different than others and like, what's wrong with us? It was so cool to be around people that had been on this roller coaster too. And I see so many similarities with the entrepreneurial journey and roller coaster that so many people feel alone as they're trying to deal with so many issues. And there's just this sense of like, oh my goodness, we're not alone.
Hey, it's Andrew here, and welcome to the eCommerceFuel podcast, the show dedicated to helping 7- and 8-figure brand owners build incredible businesses and equally amazing lives. And very excited to introduce you to someone today. This is someone who's been on the team at eCommerceFuel for, probably half a year plus or minus now, depending on when this airs. And that person is Dana Erickson. She is our Director of Community and Connection here at ECF, and just a gem of a human and a team member. Dana has just a gift for making people feel connected, for making them feel appreciated. She loves entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. She's one herself. And it's just been a joy having her on the team. She's fit in really well. If you've been in the community, you undoubtedly have noticed her in the forums, helping with moderation or poking around or helping out. And if you've come into the community over the last 6 months, you definitely know her because she runs our onboarding process as well. And so we talk about kind of some of the surprises, what she's working on with eCommerceFuel, what has surprised her about running a community. We talk about how she got hired, which is a pretty unusual way of getting her hired, involved lots of secret interviews and things like that. Masterminds that she's working on, and we kind of dive into why she's so passionate about helping people feel appreciated. So hope you enjoy it. If you get a chance, I say this at the end, but if you get a chance and you're in the community, drop her a line, say hello. It's great to have her on board. So we're going to jump into getting to know her a little bit better right after this. So who is Dana Erickson, and how did she end up at eCommerceFuel? That's a big question, but where'd you grow up? Where'd you study? How'd you kind of make your way to the team?
So I was born in Las Vegas, and then we moved to Phoenix, and then California, and then back to Phoenix, and all around Phoenix growing up, and went to the University of Arizona and actually took a career test at some point in college, and speech language pathology came up. And I was like, what the heck is that? And learned that, people can have strokes and brain injuries, and that affects different areas of their brain, and they can have difficulty communicating after that. And then got out of school and was a speech language pathologist. But there was something that was still a little bit missing for me. But then my husband, he created an online high school math program. And so by default, I became our salesperson. Had no intention of getting into sales, but really enjoyed that because it was kind of the same things that I liked about speech pathology. It was enjoying connecting with people, kind of hearing their needs. It was providing education. So after a little while of doing that, I ended up getting recruited to work for a national program as their sales rep. And then we adopted my daughter, and so stepped away from work for a little while. So I knew I had some time then to reflect on, what is it that I want to do next? We moved down to Tucson and worked on a research grant as a research speech pathologist. Then that grant ended up moving, so went back into sales for a while. And so worked with a small business in Tucson, a good friend, and got my head into all the issues of small businesses and really enjoyed that. And then decided to quit my job and dive in the deep end and start my own small business, which I did. And so that got me very much back into the entrepreneurial world with Amazing Human Project.
Yeah. And Amazing Human Project, you started it you saw this need that like there weren't good, relatively inexpensive presents you could show to just appreciate people. And Exactly. You put together these beautiful packages that have these really nice candles and a really nice handwritten note and all these cool touches as just a way to send to appreciate to people. And you just have this very innate strength in appreciating people. Like one of our core values in ECF is hospitality, which is kind of closely tied to appreciation. But it just seems like something that some people do it and know the importance of it and kind of do it out of a sense of duty. But then I feel like having gotten to know you, you're just wired that way. Where do you think that came from for you? Because it's something that I think is a huge asset for you as, as a director of community here at ECF and just in life, but it's pretty rare.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate those kind words. I honestly think, as I was kind of reflecting about it, it's from feeling different at various times in my life. And sorry. I think when you're growing up and you kind of have a different experience than other people and you're feeling different than others, you kind of just notice, like, it really means a lot when people make you feel included. And going through the whole infertility journey, you really just feel lonely, and it's just amazing how you can just feel so different than others, and like, what's wrong with us? Why can't we start our family like everyone else is doing, seemingly? And so I think those experiences just help me see like how crucial it is to make people feel like they belong, that they're valued, and that they're not so lonely on that journey. And it was pretty incredible when we did decide to adopt and got connected with a whole community of people who, for various reasons, were deciding to adopt. And we went through this class. It was so cool to be around people that had been on this roller coaster too. And I see so many similarities with the entrepreneurial journey and roller coaster, that so many people feel alone as they're trying to deal with so many issues and the whack-a-mole issue of the day. And when they log into the community and see that others are struggling just like they are, and, maybe have thrown out an issue that is something they've tackled, or that they're right in the middle of struggling through too, there's just this sense of like, oh my goodness, we're not alone. So there is something in me that just feels so strongly about helping people feel valued, connected with others, and not alone.
Yeah, it's a huge superpower you have. And I think that, maybe there's some people, maybe, the person who is homecoming queen and then goes on to, be the governor of Texas and doesn't ever get to that and experiencing that. But all of us, well, almost all of us, I'd say all of us at different stages, like you feel that, like the odd one out, the weird one, the insecurities. We're all kind of just big bags of insecurities walking around, even if we put a good face on it, right?
Absolutely.
And, and I think that's like you mentioned, one of the things that we've noticed so much in ECF, like we're going through a branding project right now, and they went and interviewed a bunch of our members and us. And they came out, one of the biggest themes they came out with was like, hey, stop selling solutions to software problems. Like you're the biggest thing that you can offer people, and that we hear from members, is it's just, man, like it's lonely out there and it's hard and you want community.
Totally. I think that came up in just about every single group as we, got connected and introduced to each other. Is someone would mention, it's just lonely out there. Your friends and family can only hear so much about AOV and CRO, and, right? And so people were so excited to be with other members, to talk shop, to feel less alone, to ask the dumb questions, to have the safe place. And it was just so neat. I feel like the mastermind groups really were that bridge between the forum where you could connect with, over 1,200 people, and the in-person events where you're going to really be able to connect with people one-on-one. The mastermind groups perfectly fit that in between, and just connect with others that get the roller coaster that you're on.
It's hard earned, but yeah, you've got an amazing ability to make people feel appreciated. I've noticed that. Annie's noticed that. A lot of people in our community in the short time you've been with us have noticed that. And so, Dana, a little bit of context. So you were running Amazing Human Project we had an opening for Director of Connection and Community, eCommerceFuel. And our hiring manager had incredibly poor judgment and didn't make the connection the first time that you'd be an amazing fit. And so you thought the position had been filled, was gone. And then I think we met at like a track meet for our kids in Tucson and started chatting. And I invited you, or we had been meaning to get together for coffee to talk about business and stuff. And so we got together for business. And I have to admit, like, part of it was just to catch up and see how business was going, but I also had ulterior motives as well, which was to see how things were going and to see if kind of what your interests were in the future. Because selfishly, I was trying to suss out, hey, would you still be interested in this position, and also try to gauge your strengths and stuff. Anyway, talk a little bit about the secret interview that kind of ended up finally bringing you on the team.
Yeah, the secret interview that I didn't know was. Yeah. So we did run into each other at the track meet, and you said, Dana, how's business going? How's Amazing Human Project? And I said, and you said, it would be, I'd be happy to sit down with you for coffee and, brainstorm ideas. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. So we did set that coffee time up, and it was so great. I mean, you shared so many of the things that I see in the forums, right? And it was kind of confirming for me, like, am I at the place right now where I want to go all in on this, or do I want to consider something else? And then, that was on a Friday. And then Monday, you texted me and said, Dana, could we chat this afternoon? And we talked that afternoon, and you were like, I don't want to blow up your life, but I'd love to offer you Director of Community and Connection. It just was such a perfect fit for, like you said, the values that I really hold dear.
It's funny you said you got some good information. I felt like I got really good information. And if you can ever pull off a secret interview, I'd highly recommend it. I think this kind of probably speaks to like why recruiting can be very effective. I was trying to get a sense of like what your real interests and desires and passions were, right? I think I even asked you like, hey, if this doesn't work out, what are you going to do next? Like, what are you interested in? And I think verbatim, some of your answers were like, I love entrepreneurship. I just fascinated by entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship in general. I love business. I love making people feel appreciated. I love connecting people. And you were pretty much just writing all of the things that we had been looking for in this role. Anyway, so that was to me hugely affirming. The other thing is I have always been hesitant to hire within kind of like my social circles, but having like the fact that Annie knew you and other people in Tucson knew you and could speak really highly to your character, to your work ethic, to the, how well you followed up and just what kind of person you were. That is a huge advantage, I think, when hiring. And it's been 6-ish months now, and it's been phenomenal having you on the team. So long way of saying, if you can pull off the secret interview or the recruiting style, highly recommend it. So
it's so true. And on the interviewee side that didn't know I was being interviewed, I mean, I didn't have nerves, right? Like you do in an interview, because I just truly was like, here, I've got this e-commerce guru in front of me that I get to pick his brain about my company. And then we got to talking about life and so many other things. So it really was just this conversation, and I had zero idea that there was anything else going on. So it was fun. I just was truly a part of the conversation.
Secret interview for the win. So you've been, like I mentioned, Dawn joined, I'm thinking April or so, had a quick ramp up period. You got thrown in the deep end pretty quickly. But what has surprised you the most since joining and getting plugged in? Maybe about two different facets. One, running a community. How's it different than you anticipated? And also about the joys and trials of running an e-commerce store, because those are both very different things.
So running a community, I think the biggest surprise there was how many things are being done that no one sees to just run a community smoothly. There's so much going on behind the scenes that you have been so thoughtful about and so proactive about. And then as far as running an e-commerce store, I think what was surprising to me is the ups and downs that so many entrepreneurs are experiencing, even after really having quite a bit of success. Being in the newer stages, you think that roller coaster is because you're trying to get off the ground, you're trying to figure things out. And just seeing the honest vulnerability in the community about the roller coaster and the ups and downs is so refreshing. And I think just makes our community so warm and inviting, because people come in and they see, oh, okay, this is a place where we can let our hair down and be real. I had no idea that successful business owners are still kind of in the ups and downs, every day.
Yeah, just different problems and sometimes more intense problems. But like you said, it's super valuable and therapeutic, I think, for other people to be like, oh, thank goodness, I'm not the only one who's just like gnawing my arm off over here. It's good to know they're not alone. So what have you been working on since you joined ECF? It's been, like I said, 6 months ish or so.
It's been so fun. One of the first projects that was on my plate is the whole onboarding process for new members. So I'm loving just introducing them to their new member cohort, which is a new thing we're trying as well, and trying to create that community among the new members. So introducing them, helping solve some problems right away for them that they're coming in, kind of top of mind issues for them, finding some relevant threads and places for them to go, give them value right off the bat, how to increase that value. It's been fun to think through that whole process and connect with new members and get them integrated.
The two big pillars we have in our community are respect and reciprocity. And we expect and ask new members to come in and not just give, not just take and take and take, but also to give, because that's what makes a sustainable community. It's challenging too to be able to bring people in, give a lot of value, but also tactfully be able to bring them in a way that encourages them to give back to the community. And there's a lot of psychology there. But you've had some really cool progress on that as well this week, in the last couple of weeks. And that's a big part of what you're doing too, is trying to keep that reciprocity in balance as well, with new members especially, but also with everybody. So absolutely.
I think that imposter syndrome can be strong when someone's joining a community and kind of doesn't know what to expect and who's here and who am I, what value do I have to bring? So one thing that I'm really trying to emphasize is you have a unique journey. And what you bring and all of the experiences that you bring in, you may be new to ECF, but you're not new to entrepreneurship, and you've had a unique journey, and we'd love to just hear some part of that journey that you want to share. And I'm just so glad to see when new members kind of jump in and get involved right away.
What's been the hardest part for you? Thankfully, we have a pretty civil and respectful community, but stuff pops up because you're really you're kind of the front person on, the community management and community moderation side as well.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the hardest parts is trying to be respectful of the fact that each person is going to bring, different feelings of strengths of emotions on certain issues. And so wanting to respect that and let them be able to voice that, but also making sure we're not being disrespectful at any point to someone or offending someone.
So you've been also doing a lot of work with Masterminds for ECF. We have, I won't get into the details, but you were kind of a little bit unexpectedly, you had, and very valiantly took on a bunch of Mastermind launches with short notice, which has been really cool. So talk a little bit, if you would, about what we're doing with Masterminds, what we've done so far, and what we are hoping to do and build on the horizon, including the event we have coming up.
Yeah. So it was such a great way to get to meet members over Zoom and just to see that need to connect. It's been a lot of fun getting to meet so many of our members that way and get them connected and introduced and kind of launched as we're kind of figuring out our whole process. And then our goal is to plan a meetup, hopefully after the new year, and get everybody together in person so that they can just have that in-person experience too, to just gel those groups even more as they've been connecting over the previous few months over Zoom, but have that in person, all the activities together, eating together, we know all of that really bonds, creates those strong bonds. So we're excited to get that meetup planned as well.
Yeah. And masterminds, they're probably six on average to the group. Is that about right for ECF?
Yep.
Okay. And meet once a month. We're trying to match people based on, business size, channels. Some of them are niche dependent. Some of them are more just business size dependent. And it's a huge asset to have, people you can come to and talk to. I mean, even in the community side of things, like as a community grows, there's a lot of value in having a huge brain trust you can ask questions to, but it's also super important to have 3 or 4 or 5 people you can really get advice on, especially stuff that you may not want to send out to 1,000 people.
Yep.
Because it's a private community, but some things you may not want to share with 1,000 of your closest friends. So having that closer, more intimate circle is pretty important.
I think it was a huge need, and I'm just seeing a lot of members really embrace it and really be so grateful for it.
Yeah. And if people are interested in joining, I know we're going to have a couple different, I don't know if rush is the right word, because anyone can get in, assuming that you've, like a community member in good standing and you're not in there trying to, do MLM sales to community members or something. But if people hear this and they're like, I would love to do this, I'd love to be part of a mastermind at ECF. First, you have to, of course, be an ECF member, but assuming they are, should they DM you? What's the best kind of way to get on the radar for that or to apply for that?
Yeah, we'll be sure and have a post in the forum about it when we open up that window, and it will link to a form that everyone can fill out with lots of details about their business and making sure that they're committed. That's another big point in all of this, is we really want to make sure to match members who are really committed to it and really want to see it through. So we'll be opening up kind of a window to sign up for it, and then matching them. We found that matching them close to when they've signed up is really good, because that's when they kind of know what's on the horizon for them for the next 6 months, and if they can really commit to a group.
Yeah, you put $10,000 or 5% of your company in escrow, and you get that back once you come to all 6 mastermind meetings for the first 6 months.
Exactly.
Really trying to.
Yeah. Just kind of medium commitment level there.
Immediate, yeah. Low stakes. Low stakes. We talked about Amazing Human Project. What did you learn, and what have you learned running that business? Like the goods, the bads, about launching something, about product market fit, about margins?
Yeah. So much thought went into the launch and what product to launch, and all the forwards and backwards steps when you're trying to just zero in on what product you're going to offer as that kind of minimum viable product that you're going to put out into the world initially, right? But once you do that, there's still so much more to do, of course, as every e-commerce entrepreneur listening to this knows. And that's the part that I felt really ill prepared for, was thinking through how to keep any sort of momentum going on an ongoing daily basis, the content you need to put out, the structure behind the scenes, making sure, my sourcing is solid, just so many things like that were kind of weak, and just still needing to strengthen a lot of those avenues. But there's just, it's a constant journey to keep on it and to keep it growing. And every single e-commerce entrepreneur listening to this is nodding their head going, yeah, of course. But it took me a while to get that.
I think everyone's had the experience of, you put out into the world, you get a few of your orders, and then things slow down and you're like, oh crap.
Yep.
All right, I guess I got to go figure out how to get people to come to this website, which is a lot of times the hardest part of the business, at least to do profitably.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be at our first event, your first event soon for ECF, which I'm very excited about. You already alluded to a few things that you love. If people are looking for, hey, who's Dana outside of e-commerce and appreciation and things like that, and community, you've mentioned a few things. You mentioned, adoption. You kind of opened up about that a little bit earlier, but why is adoption something that you're so passionate about?
The couple experiencing, infertility or whatever issue that's making them open to adoption. I love talking to people going through that because I didn't have a ton of people to talk to myself. And so I've talked to lots of friends of friends. A lot of people want to connect me with people who are struggling. And I love doing that because, again, it might be that person's first time, really connecting with someone else who has walked that path. And then from getting embedded in this world of adoption, I think I'm just super passionate about what issues come up for adoptees, how the experience is for the birth mothers who chose that path for their biological child. I just think it's a really interesting, complex, a whole journey for all three of those. They call it an adoption triad. So all of those three sides of the triangle. And so I think that's where the passion for adoption comes in. Is I'm just so proud of how our family was created. As crazy and difficult as it was, I would not change 1 second of our journey. I'm just so grateful for how our family was created. And so that passion kind of comes forth when I talk to other people about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a cool, I can think of few more powerful things to do than and not even from the parent side, but from a kid's side, to give a kid who doesn't have a home and parents a home. I mean, that's like just, fundamental human need 101. It's always amazing to hear when people do that. You're also, you mentioned the brain and neuroplasticity. That's something that you're really, and I don't know why I jotted this down when we were kind of mid-interview, but neuroplasticity. So is that, I know so little about the brain, it's embarrassing, but this is the idea that your brain can really change and it's malleable over time. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what is it that interests you about that? And how does that apply to like learning and growth and entrepreneurship or whatever avenues that tie into why it makes it interesting to you?
That concept of neuroplasticity is fascinating to me, that you can keep learning, and it's so hard when we get stuck in certain pathways. It's because those neural pathways are so well worn that we want to keep going down those pathways. But if we really exert some effort, we can form new neural pathways. We can change. We can open our mind to new things. And I just saw it so clearly on that study that I worked under just a brilliant guy who has his PhD in neuroscience. But I love learning about the brain, but I love learning about any topic out there. And it just, can change how we view the world and approach our life.
Was there anything that you learned from that study or have learned in kind of other studies of neuroplasticity that people listening can use to just improve themselves and their brain and their performance, their learning?
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about that topic recently. And I think part of it is just being really intentional about it. So if we're noticing that we're thinking down a certain pathway a lot, and that's something we want to change, having to be proactive about it and figuring out, how do we want to change this? And then spending time intentionally to create some new neural pathways. And so right now, that's actually something that I'm really interested in and kind of studying on my own, is just like, how do you create those neural pathways, and how do you, kind of bring it into the process of your day, to be intentional about making those changes.
So can you take a carrot versus stick? Can you take the stick approach? Anytime one of my kids says something that's self-defeating, I make them get down and give me 10 push-ups in an attempt to like associate pain and suffering with like terrible mental thinking. I don't know if this is a good or a bad parenting move. Maybe you have more insight than I do.
I love that. Actually, I'm going to steal that too. Because as parents, we do want to stop that, right? Like, words are important and what you're saying is important. So important. Maybe what you could add on then is, once they get up from the push-ups, is, okay, how can we change that? And think on that to help replace that negative thought.
Yeah. All right. I'll try to temper the drill sergeant a little bit here. If we get a little more.
No, I like that.
A little more.
Keep that
a little more
there.
Grace. I think that's good advice. And then you're also really interested in health and fitness and kind of longevity and things like that, right?
Yeah, I got interested in health, I think when I was experiencing some health challenges in my early 20s. And then when we were going through infertility, really was interested in discovering, more things you can optimize about your health. And I think all of us just want to feel good, right? Like you want to fill your days with meaningful work, things that you enjoy, but at the core, you've got to be feeling good and kind of at your best, hopefully, to be able to approach your day. And so I find that stuff just really interesting.
That's super cool. And feel free to tell me to mind my own business. Won't be offended at all. But to the extent you are comfortable sharing, what have there been a couple things health-wise, diet-wise, that have made a big outsized impact? Things that maybe 20 years ago you weren't doing, but now you're doing that you feel like have made a real difference in your quality of life and your health?
I think it's a lot of stuff that's more common knowledge now, but really weirdly wasn't 20, 24 years ago. It's about whole foods and eating foods, hopefully as close to nature as possible with ingredients that you can pronounce. I would say sleep. Oh my gosh, in my teens and college years, I just thought I was Superwoman and thought I had found like the secret to life of, that's where you get more hours to your day. You don't sleep as long. Like that makes so much sense. I'm really trying to prioritize sleep, as I know so many people are nowadays. That's just huge. And then I'm always curious about supplements. I just think that world is kind of fascinating. If I do have some deficiencies, trying to fill some of those. Yeah, we've had some interesting threads in the community about that I really enjoy.
Well, if you haven't had the pleasure of saying hi to Dana yet, in the forums, drop her a note, drop her a little private message. It's Dana Erickson, is spelled Erikkson.
Close. Eriksson.
I'm sorry. SSON. Butchered it. I had one job and I screwed it up. Forgive me.
Not at all.
But yeah, drop her a note, say hi. I'm sure you'll see her around. But Dana, it's just been so good to have you on the team. You came in, your attitude is super impressive. You're, like I said, in earlier, just your desire and the satisfaction you get and your gift for making people feel seen and recognized, and bringing them into the fold, not to mention just attention to detail and the attitude with which you've taken on more than we were even anticipating on dropping on you. You've just been a phenomenal addition. So glad to have you on the team. Thank you for all your work here. And can't wait to get you more plugged in and get you, get the rest of the community to meet you at, in our events in the future. So welcome, a belated welcome. And thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you, Andrew. That was the highest compliment you could give me. Truly. I really, really appreciate that. I'm so honored to be part of this community. I'd love if people reached out. I'm so excited to be at more in-person events and just get to meet members in real life. I had the opportunity to go to Austin and meet some folks there. We had a little meetup in Tucson, and it's just so fun when you get to meet members in person. I'm loving that. So looking forward to doing that more. And I'd love to hear from more members. It's just, we have such fascinating people in the community that are truly generous, humble, just cool, proactive people, and just loving being a part of this community. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. And it reminds me, as we're closing here, one thing that I thought was, sometimes you get close, you're too close to something for too long and you kind of take it for granted. And I can't remember when we were talking about this, but you made the mention of just how you were so fascinated by is that there are people who have just said like, hey, I want to just kind of carve out my own little world and my own little way of doing things. And you have people that just have such different lives than the rest of the public. They don't have to necessarily go by the standard script. And it seemed like that was one of the things that really fascinated you about not just entrepreneurship, but kind of the breed of folks who've found their way into the community.
Absolutely. I see a lot of people that have said, I wanted to have more time for my family and I wanted to be able to travel. I wanted to be able to show my family different areas of the world. And I mean, it really is a group that is so proactive and intentional about their life. It's so fun to get to experience it, watch it, learn from it. It's a huge part of the community.
Yeah. Well, Dana, this has been super fun. Thank you again, and looking forward to seeing you here in about a week and a half for our next event.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Andrew.